Close your eyes. Tighter. What do you see? Most will say nothing. But the mystics saw a radiance hidden inside the nothingness. A darkness so alive it shimmered, they called it the black light. This is not the darkness of absence, but the light beyond light, the brilliance that blinds the hidden face of God. It is the place before creation, where light and shadow were still one breath, where the word had not yet been spoken, and silence still carried the memory of his name. In the language of Sufism, it is said that every color of light is born from this unseen night. The green of life, the red of love, the white of unveiling, all dissolve back into the luminous void where even radiance bows to the essence. And if you stare long enough into that void, you will find it staring back, not as a darkness swallowing you, but as the infinite light remembering itself through your gaze. The Sufis call this moment Fanā, annihilation. But it is not the end. It is the return to the womb of existence, the luminous blackness from which all things are born and to which all things must return. Listen closely now, for what you call darkness may just be God, watching himself through your closed eyes.
What is this black light the Sufis spoke of? How can darkness be radiant? How can nothingness shine? They said, there are two lights in creation, one that reveals and one that dissolves. The first is the light of manifestation, Nur al-Anwar, the light that gives birth to colors, forms, faces, and dreams. It is the light of becoming. It pours through galaxies and hearts, illuminating the surfaces of things so that we might call them real. But the second is the light of the essence, Nur al-aswad, the black light. It does not reveal, it consumes revelation. It does not show you what is, it erases everything that is not. It is the divine light stripped of every reflection, the brilliance so absolute that it appears as void. Ibn Arabi said, when you stare too long at the sun of reality, you go blind, not for lack of light, but from excess. The black light is this blindness, the heart overwhelmed by proximity to the infinite. It is the moment when the seeker disappears into the scene, when light becomes so pure that perception cannot survive it. To understand it, imagine this. White light fractured through a prism becomes a rainbow. Every color you see is a veil. Each shade is a divine attribute: love, majesty, knowledge, beauty. But when the prism shatters, when nothing stands between the source and your sight, all colors collapse back into oneness, into blackness. That is the light beyond light, the womb of radiance from which creation is endlessly born and endlessly reabsorbed. Najm al-Din Kubrā taught that every seeker moves through luminous veils, the green of life, the red of love, the yellow of wisdom, the white of unity. And beyond them all lies the black, not the darkness of sin or shadow, but the color of the infinite itself, where even illumination dies into essence. The mystics called it Fanā in Nur, annihilation in the light. Not the loss of being, but its unveiling. Not death, but disappearance into the real. The black light is the divine unconditioned, the pulse before let there be light. You see, what we call light in this world is only its reflection upon walls. The black light is the space before the walls existed. It is not what the eyes see, but what the soul remembers before eyes were born. It is the silence that surrounds the name God, the breath between creation and creator. And yet, it is not somewhere else. Every shadow you see carries its signature. Every night sky is a mirror of that luminous void. Even your own unknowing, your confusion, your silence, is the shimmer of the black light seeking to know itself through you. So when the Sufis say, God is the light of the heavens and the earth, they also whisper, and the darkness thereof. For the light of being and the darkness of essence are one and the same, two hands of the same mystery. The black light is not absence. It is the presence before presence. It is not death. It is the undying stillness that allows life to flicker at all. And to touch it, even for an instant, is to remember that the source of all illumination lies hidden in the heart of what seems dark. They say that before the soul reaches the black light, it must pass through 7 rivers of color, each a mirror, each a test, each a death. Najm al-Din Kubrā called this the Tagrid al-Anwar, the unveiling of lights. For every seeker carries within them a hidden spectrum of divine illumination, lights that glow not in the sky, but in the heart. The first is the green light, the life of awakening. It rises like spring after a long winter of heedlessness. The seeker begins to feel the pulse of divine remembrance in the blood, and the dead garden of the soul turns green again. This is the light of rebirth, the garden of the heart beginning to breathe. Then comes the blue light, the expansion of the spirit. Here the heart widens, and what once was me and mind begins to dissolve into a vaster sky. It is the stage of longing, the breath of distance. The seeker begins to taste infinity, but cannot yet endure its flavor. Next burns the red light, the fire of love. It consumes every pretense, every boundary that thought built around the heart. This is the light of Ishq, divine madness. The seeker burns and calls it worship, bleeds and calls it beauty. Love becomes both wound and medicine. Then, from within that fire, emerges the yellow light, the illumination of divine knowledge. It is the light of Marifah, direct recognition. It doesn't come from books or teachers, but from the quiet certainty that dawns when the seeker realizes, I was never seeking anything but God. The yellow light is the mind purified by the heart, the intellect lit from within by revelation. After this comes the white light, the total illumination of unity. It is the stage where the soul becomes translucent. All opposites appear as reflections of a single sun. Night and day, joy and sorrow, believer and unbeliever, all are seen as movements within one infinite motion. The seeker no longer says, I see God in everything, but rather, I see nothing but God. And yet, even this brilliance is not the end. For every light, even the purest white, still casts a shadow. And beyond all light and shadow lies the Nur al-aswad, the black light, the void that glows with uncreated brilliance. Kubrā wrote that when the seeker reaches this threshold, even color becomes unbearable. Vision collapses into silence. The self cannot look upon the source, for there is no self left to look. The Nur al-aswad does not appear to the eyes, but to the heart that has ceased to resist. The journey of light, then, is not a ladder climbing toward heaven. It is a dissolving, a softening, a return to the original simplicity before light was born. Each color is a veil, and each unveiling another reminder that the real cannot be seen, only become. The mystics say, when the final light rises, black yet radiant, it is not an ending, but the collapse of distance. The universe folds back into the single point from which it first appeared. The soul, emptied of every hue, becomes colorless, boundless, nameless, and finally free. This is the journey of lights. The soul's pilgrimage from manifestation to mystery, from spectrum to silence, from seeing to being. And then there is nothing. No color, no sound, no form, just a vast stillness, dense and alive, where even light itself seems to kneel. This is the luminous void, the night that glows, the darkness that breathes. When the seeker reaches this point, there is no more seeking, for the one who looked and the one who was looked for have become the same gaze. The Sufis say that here even light burns away. The vision of the real cannot be borne by the eyes, so the eyes are closed forever. What remains is not blindness, but a seeing without sight, a knowing without knower. In the depths of Fanā, annihilation, the mystic feels themselves vanish like a drop falling into the endless ocean. And yet, it is not disappearance. It is expansion beyond boundary, a realization that the ocean was always within the drop. At first, the experience feels like death. The self trembles at the edge of unbeing. It feels as if everything, thought, name, memory, is being erased by some invisible fire. But slowly, the fear turns into awe. The void that seemed to devour you reveals itself as the heart of all tenderness. The darkness hums, not as emptiness, but as presence. It is in this moment the mystic understands. The black light is not the absence of God. It is his most intimate nearness. It is what the Holy Book meant when it whispered, "He is with you wherever you are." You do not see him as another. You awaken as his seeing. You do not feel his love as coming toward you. You feel it blooming from within you, like a hidden sun beneath the ribs. The mystic says, "I ceased to exist, yet was more alive than ever." Because in the void, existence no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the one who never ceased being. What dies here is the illusion of separateness. What is born is reality, unfragmented, eternal, whole. And the silence of this state is not the silence of nothingness, but the silence of fullness, so complete that sound has no room to echo. In this radiant darkness, time loses its pulse. Past and future dissolve into an eternal now. There is no longer a path, no traveler, no destination. There is only an endless awareness resting in its own light. This is what the mystics meant by Baqā, subsistence after annihilation. You return from death not as you, but as him through you. The lips move, but it is God speaking. The eyes open, but it is God seeing. The heart beats, but it is the pulse of the infinite. And when they emerge from this luminous night, the mystic speaks softly, not in certainty, but in wonder. I did not find God. I disappeared, and he remained. The radiance of the void cannot be captured. It cannot be spoken, taught, or contained. It can only be tasted, like sweetness left upon the tongue of the soul. That taste never fades. It lingers through every breath, through every glance at the world, because now everything glows with the memory of that darkness. They called it the black light, and for centuries minds have trembled at the phrase. How can light be black? How can radiance appear as shadow? How can the infinite be both dazzling and dark? The mystic smiled and said, "You do not yet know what light truly is." In the world of forms, light reveals things. It separates, it defines. It makes one thing visible by hiding another. But in the world of the real, light does not reveal. It conceals. For when the infinite shines without limit, there is nothing left to see. That is why the saints said, "The light of God is darkness to the mind." Because the human eye was built to perceive contrast, to see this and that, me and you, shadow and flame. But in the one light, contrast dies. It is too bright to bear form. And so, to us, it appears as black. This is the paradox of divine luminosity. The more infinite the light, the darker it seems. Not because it has dimmed, but because it has overflowed the vessel of perception. Just as the stars vanish at noon, not because they die, but because they are consumed by a greater brilliance, so too the soul, when flooded by the Absolute, enters a darkness of pure illumination. The Sufis called it Nur al-aswad, the light beyond light. They said it is what lies beyond al-Nur al-Muhammadi, the first light, the radiant emanation of creation. For when that primordial brilliance returns to its source, it becomes unseeable. Black not from absence, but from boundlessness. And here the mystic's insight meets the scientist's wonder. Modern physics tells us, at the heart of every galaxy lies a black hole, a darkness so dense that even light cannot escape it. But the mystic whispers, what if the black hole is not a tomb of light, but its womb? What if every collapse of radiance is a return to its origin? The moment light remembers its source, what you call black is simply light too infinite for your eyes. What you call empty is fullness beyond your grasp. The universe hides its face for the same reason the beloved veils hers. Because too much beauty would unmake the beholder. And so the mystic learns to see in the dark, to walk through this world with the eyes of the unseen, to realize that even shadow is sacred, for it too belongs to the dance of the One. The Quran said, He merges the night into the day and the day into the night. It never said one destroys the other, for both are the breath of the same mystery. The black light is the midpoint, where opposites bow before their source. It is where the eye closes so the heart may open, where perception dies and awareness is reborn without direction. In the radiance of the void, darkness ceases to be a negation, it becomes revelation. Because what we fear as emptiness is in truth the fullness of the infinite. So when the mystic stands before the black light, they do not say, I see nothing. They whisper, I see what cannot be seen. And that is the final paradox. That true sight begins when seeing ends. There are lights the eyes can see, and then there is the light that swallows all seeing. The Sufis called it the black light, the hidden sun within the heart, whose rays burn not upon the skin, but upon the self. It is not reached by effort nor captured by thought, only unveiled through stillness. The masters of the Kubrā order taught a secret descent, Murāqabah, the watchful gaze within. It begins when the seeker turns the mirror of perception inward, when attention no longer chases forms, but waits in the quiet chamber of the heart. Here the eyes of flesh grow dim, and another eye, the eye of spirit, begins to awaken. Each breath becomes a prayer. Inhalation, the drawing in of divine light. Exhalation, the release of illusion. The breath itself becomes Dhikr, remembrance, not of words, but of being. The name of God breathed without tongue. The silence between beats whispering, Who? Then comes the closing of the senses. The seeker turns away from sight, sound, and touch, until the outer world fades like a distant echo. The luminous forms of color arise. Blues, greens, golds. The signs of inner unveiling. But the Sufi does not cling even to these. For every color, however radiant, is still a veil. Beyond them lies the silence, a darkness so complete that only the soul remains to witness it. And when even witnessing dissolves, the black light dawns, not as something seen, but as the absence that reveals everything. It is the light beyond light, the radiant void from which all colors are born. But beware, the masters warned. This brilliance breaks the unprepared. The ego cannot stand before it. The false self burns away like a shadow under noon sun. Only those who have died before dying can enter this darkness and live. For this is not meditation, it is annihilation. The moment where I disappears, and only Hue remains. To encounter the black light is to meet the truth of being stripped bare. No form, no name, no story to cling to. You realize that all you have ever called light was only reflection, and this darkness, is the source. Here, the seeker no longer asks for visions. They no longer plead for understanding, they simply are. Suspended between being and non-being, between breath and no breath, they hover in the heart of the infinite. And if they endure, if they surrender utterly, something within them cracks open. A new dawn rises, not of color, but of consciousness itself. The black light reveals its secret, that even in darkness, the divine is not absent. He is most present. It is not the extinction of light, but the return of light to its source. So the Sufi kneels in the invisible sun and whispers the oldest remembrance. There is no light but the light, and it shines even in the dark. After the darkness comes not dawn but recognition. The seeker who vanishes in the black light does not disappear, they awaken. They return, not as who they were, but as what is. Their voice becomes the echo of the hidden treasure, their eyes the mirrors of the unseen. For the black light is not the end, it is the beginning after the end. It is what remains when everything false has died, and what rises when only the real is left breathing. The mystic who crosses that threshold does not seek light anymore. They see with it. Every face, every sound, every color becomes a revelation of that same darkness that once seemed to devour them. Now they understand. There is no separation, no duality between light and shadow, being and void. All are movements of one radiance. The divine pulse wearing 1,000 forms. This is the mystery the Sufis called Baqā, subsistence after annihilation. To live, but not as oneself. To act, but not from the ego's will. To love, but with the heart of the beloved. When the black light burns away the illusion of self, what remains is the face of God looking back at itself. It is said in the Hadith, "I was a hidden treasure, and I love to be known." The black light is that treasure before the word be was spoken. It is God loving himself through the eyes of the awakened. Those who return from the luminous void walk differently. They move through the world with the stillness of mountains and the gentleness of dawn rain. They do not preach, they radiate. They do not argue, they illumine. For they have seen that all things, even suffering, even loss, are the veils of the same endless mercy. To live from the black light is to see the divine playing in form, to know that every soul is a spark waiting to remember its own night of origin. In their presence, others feel it, that strange peace, that quiet gravity. It is not charisma, it is clarity. The remembrance that all light, all darkness, all birth and death are one breath in the lungs of the eternal. And so the mystic returns to the marketplace, carrying nothing, yet bearing everything. They have no doctrine to defend, no identity to preserve. Only the knowing that the beloved hides behind every face, and the luminous void hums beneath every sound. They become both servant and source, both candle and night. Their heart is a doorway through which the infinite enters the finite, again and again, in every act of love, in every breath of awareness. And when they look upon the world, they no longer ask, "Where is God?" They whisper instead, "Everything is His reflection. Everything is His, and it is all ever." Every color is the black light remembering itself. For the journey was never about reaching the light. It was always about realizing you are the light that dreamed it was lost. When all lights fade and all names fall silent, what remains is you. Not the you who came seeking, but the one who was never lost. The light seeing itself, the darkness remembering its own radiance. This is the hidden treasure, the secret that breathed the cosmos into being. Before the stars were born, before the angels sang, before light took color, there was only that. The endless luminous void whispering through the silence of eternity, "I was a hidden treasure, and I love to be known." And so you were born, not from dust, but from longing, not from chance, but from love remembering itself through form. You are not a seeker moving toward God. You are God's gaze moving through yourself. Every sorrow, every ecstasy, every fall and every flight, it was all part of the unveiling. Each time you shattered, it was only so the infinite could find one more opening to pour through. Each time you let go, it was not the end, it was the return. The saints called it Fanā, the death before dying. The prophets called it surrender. The mystics called it love. But it is all one movement. The undoing of separation, the dissolving of illusion, the remembering that even darkness shines. And now, as this story folds into silence, listen, not with your ears, but with your being. The same breath that began the universe moves through you now. The same black light hums behind your heartbeat. The same black light shines over. The treasure you sought was never buried. It was breathing you all along. When you close your eyes tonight, let the mind fall, let the heart open, and let the light behind all lights guide you home. Because in the end, there is no seeker, no search, only the beloved dreaming of himself through you. And when all has been said and unsaid, remember this. You were never in darkness. You were, and are, the darkness that shines. The black light is not an end. It is the eye through which God beholds himself. If this spoke to the quiet part of your soul, like, share, and leave a reflection below. Your presence here helps awaken others to the unseen, and for more journeys beyond the visible, subscribe to Inner Alchemy, where light and shadow meet, and the infinite remembers itself through you.